Hey everyone, welcome back. It's time for another deep dive. And this one was actually requested by one of our listeners.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they were curious about the use of cannabinoids in dermatology, specifically topical applications.
Yeah, that's a hot topic.
Definitely. So get ready, because we're about to wade into some serious science.
Yeah, it's PhD level stuff.
Yeah,
We're talking CB1 and CB2 receptors, GPCR activation, the whole shebang.
Right. But don't worry, we're going to bring it down step by step. So even if you're not a scientist, you'll be able to follow along and understand what's going on.
It's kind of like we're dissecting a research paper together over coffee.
Exactly. Now, before we get too deep into the weeds, let's take a step back and remind ourselves about the endocannabinoid system. Our body's own network of cannabinoids and receptors.
Right. And this is where the work of Dr. Machulam was so groundbreaking. His lab discovered anandamide and 2-AG, the body's natural cannabinoids.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I remember that from one of our previous deep dives.
So important. These molecules are essential for maintaining balance or homeostasis throughout the body.
And that includes skin health.
Absolutely. The endocannabinoid system plays a key role in keeping our skin looking and feeling its best.
So we've got our body's own cannabinoids, and then we have these topical creams introducing more. How do they actually do anything?
Well, it's like a chain reaction. It all starts with a cannabinoid binding to a receptor.
Okay, so whether it's produced by the body or applied topically, it's that binding that kicks things off.
Exactly. Think of it like a key fitting into a lock.
Okay, I get that.
These receptors, primarily CB1 and CB2, are found on cells throughout the body, including in our skin.
So CB1 and CD2 are on the skin cells themselves.
That's why topical applications make sense.
Right, because they have those receptors right there ready to go.
Precisely.
Okay.
Now, this binding event triggers a cascade of events inside the cell, ultimately leading to those therapeutic effects.
So it's not just the binding itself, it's what happens after the binding that's important.
Absolutely. It's like a domino effect. That first domino falling sets off a whole chain reaction.
And their first domino is the binding.
Exactly. And the binding causes the receptor to change its shape.
Oh, so it's not just a static lock and key?
Nope. Think of it like a switch flipping.
Interesting.
This shape change allows the receptor to interact with the G protein.
Ah, the G protein. So that's like the messenger.
More like a team of messengers. There are different types of G proteins, each with its own specific role.
Makes sense. I imagine it's pretty complicated.
It can be, but we'll focus on the gyneos types, which are particularly important in cannabinoid signaling.
Okay, so those are the messengers we're interested in.
They relay the signal from the receptor to other parts of the cell.
Gotcha. So shape change interact with G protein. What happens next?
Next comes the GTP-GDT exchange. Think of it like a baton being passed between runners in a relay race.
Okay, I can see that.
GTP and GDP are molecules that act like the baton, and this exchange activates the G protein.
Giving it the energy to keep going.
Exactly.
And then the G protein splits up to further spread the message.
Yep. We call that subunit dissociation.
Subunit dissociation. So the G protein team fans out to deliver instructions to different parts of the cell.
It amplifies the signal, making sure the message gets through loud and clear.
Wow. So we have this tiny cannabinoid molecule binding to a receptor on a skin cell, triggering a shape change, which activates a G protein. Then that G protein splits up to amplify the message and send it to different parts of the cell.
It's amazing how such a small event can trigger such a big response.
Yeah, it is. But what happens next? What are those instructions that the G protein is carrying?
Those instructions activate various pathways within the cell. Think of them like specialized teams with specific jobs to do.
Okay, I like that. Each team has its own task.
And these pathways are what ultimately lead to the visible changes we see in skin conditions.
So let's dive into those pathways then.
Sure. What are some of the key players?
Yeah.
And how do they relate to treating skin problems?
Okay, sounds good.
Well, there's the CAMP-PKA pathway.
The CAMP-PKA pathway.
It's a major regulator of inflammation and cell growth, both of which are key processes in skin health.
So, if a cannabinoid can influence the CAMP-PKA pathway, it could potentially dampen inflammation and regulate cell growth in the skin.
Precisely. That's what makes this so exciting.
Okay. What about other pathways?
Right. There's another important pathway, the CAN2 plus mobilization PLCD-AGIP3 pathway.
Wow, that's a long one.
It's a mouthful, but it's involved in cell signaling and how cells respond to their environment.
Okay. And then there's the MAPK pathways, right? ERK, JNK, and P38.
You got it. Those are like the master regulators of the cell. They can influence a whole range of cellular processes.
Including cell proliferation, differentiation, and even cell death.
all of which are crucial when we talk about skin health and how conditions like psoriasis and eczema develop.
So the endocannabinoid system, through these pathways, has its fingers in a lot of pies when it comes to skin function.
It really does. And that's why it's such a promising target for treating skin conditions.
Okay, I'm starting to see the potential here.
By modulating these pathways, cannabinoids can potentially address the underlying causes of these conditions rather than just masking the symptoms.
That makes a lot of sense. So how does all this intricate cellular communication actually translate into visible improvements in skin conditions like psoriasis?
Well, there was a fascinating study that looked at the effects of cannabinoids on keratinocytes, the main cells that make up the outer layer of our skin.
Okay. And what did they find?
The researchers found that cannabinoids could significantly reduce the production of inflammatory molecules by these cells.
So instead of having this constant inflammatory signal being sent out, the cannabinoids are helping to quiet things down.
Exactly. And that's really important in conditions like psoriasis, where chronic inflammation is a major driver.
Of those thick, scaly patches we see.
Right. This study suggests that cannabinoids could help calm down the immune system's overreaction in the skin.
Interesting. So that's for psoriasis. But what about eczema? How do cannabinoids help with that unbearable itch?
That's a great question. Remember the pathways we discussed earlier?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, some of them are involved in the perception of itch. Research suggests that cannabinoids can modulate these pathways, essentially turning down the volume on the itch signals.
So they're not just working on the inflammation. They're also directly affecting how the nerves perceive that itchy sensation.
That's right. And there have been promising studies looking at the effects of topical cannabinoids on eczema.
Okay. Like what kind of studies?
One study in particular looked at the effects of a CBD cream on patients with eczema, and the results were quite encouraging.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Many patients reported a significant reduction in their itching after using the cream.
So it seems like cannabinoids are offering a two-pronged approach to eczema, tackling the inflammation and calming the itch.
You got it.
But I imagine this field is still in its early stages, right?
You're absolutely right. While the initial research is promising, there's still much we don't know.
I bet there's a lot to uncover.
There's a lot of excitement and ongoing research investigating the full potential of cannabinoids in dermatology.
So before we move on to the specifics of those ongoing studies, I'd love to hear what stands out to you most in this initial look at cannabinoids and their potential in treating skin conditions.
What fascinates me is the multifaceted nature of cannabinoid signaling. You know, it's not just about blocking one specific molecule or pathway.
Right, I see what you mean.
It's about modulating a complex network of interconnected processes that all contribute to skin health. That's what makes it so powerful and potentially so effective for these complex conditions.
Yeah, it's like having a whole team of tiny healers working together to restore balance in the skin.
Exactly. And it makes me think about personalized therapies. You mentioned that earlier.
Oh, yeah. Could you expand on what you mean by that?
Absolutely. Remember, everyone's endocannabinoid system is slightly different.
So what works for one person might not work for another.
Exactly. Personalized therapies aim to tailor the treatment to the individual.
Okay. So are we talking about adjusting the type of cannabinoid used or the dosage?
Precisely. It's about finding the perfect key for each individual's lock, so to speak.
I like that analogy.
We might use genetic testing to uncover variations in their cannabinoid receptors, or analyze their skin to determine the levels of endocannabinoids already present.
That sounds pretty futuristic, but also incredibly promising. It could completely change how we approach skin conditions.
Right. Moving away from a one-size-fits-all approach.
But how realistic is this given the current state of research?
That's a great question.
Are there any hurdles we need to overcome to make personalized cannabinoid therapy a reality?
While the concept is exciting, there are definitely challenges. One of the biggest is the sheer complexity of the endocannabinoid system.
Oh, I can imagine.
We're still learning about all the different components and how they interact.
So even if we can identify someone's unique endocannabinoid profile, we might not fully understand how to interpret that information or translate it into a specific treatment plan.
That's right. And then there's the issue of standardization.
Standardization.
Right now, the cannabis plant contains over 100 different cannabinoids.
Wow, that's a lot.
And not all of them have the same effects.
So some might be more effective for certain conditions than others.
Exactly. Plus, the concentrations and ratios of these cannabinoids can vary wildly between products.
So it's not like you can just grab any CBD product off the shelf and expect the same results.
Unfortunately not.
It makes sense that it must be difficult to conduct rigorous research and make definitive recommendations when there's so much variability in the substances being studied.
It's a challenge for sure.
It seems like we need more precise ways to isolate and control the specific cannabinoids used in treatments.
Absolutely. And that leads to another challenge, safety and efficacy.
Right, of course. We want to make sure people are using products that are safe and effective.
Exactly. Not all commercially available cannabinoid products are created equal.
So buyer beware.
It's crucial for consumers to choose products from reputable sources that have been thoroughly tested for purity and potency.
Okay, good advice. Now, while we're talking about potential downsides, are there any side effects people should be aware of when using topical cannabinoids?
Well, topical cannabinoids are generally well tolerated, but there's always a chance of side effects, as with any treatment.
Of course.
Yeah.
Nothing is completely risk-free.
Some people may experience skin irritation, redness, or dryness at the site of application.
Okay, so mostly localized reaction.
Mm,
Nothing too serious.
right. And it's important to note that systemic side effects, those affecting the whole body, are very unlikely with topical use.
Oh, that's good to know. Why is that?
This is because the cannabinoids are not absorbed into the bloodstream in significant amounts when applied to the skin.
Makes sense. That's reassuring. It sounds like the risks associated with topical use are fairly minimal.
Yep.
But are there any groups of people who should be particularly cautious about using topical cannabinoids?
As with any new treatment, it's always best to consult with a healthcare professional before using topical cannabinoids, especially if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, or if you have any underlying health conditions.
Right. They can help you weigh the potential benefits and risks.
Exactly.
So we've covered the potential of personalized therapies, some of the challenges in this field, and even touched on safety and potential side effects. What stands out to you most from all of this, especially regarding the future of cannabinoid therapies in dermatology?
What excites me is the shift in perspective. We're moving away from simply treating symptoms and toward understanding the intricate mechanisms at play within the skin.
Okay, I'm listening.
The endocannabinoid system is a powerful network that's involved in so many aspects of skin health, and we're only just beginning to tap into its potential.
You mentioned earlier that certain lifestyle factors and dietary choices can influence the endocannabinoid system. Could you elaborate on that?
Of course, research suggests that things like stress management, exercise, and even what we eat can impact the endocannabinoid system.
Oh, wow. So our lifestyle choices can actually affect how our skin functions?
They can. This opens up fascinating possibilities for supporting skin health, not just through topical treatments, but also through lifestyle modifications.
Interesting. So we might be able to boost the skin's own endocannabinoid tone through lifestyle changes.
Exactly. It's almost like taking a more holistic approach.
Right. Acknowledging the interconnectedness of our bodies and how lifestyle factors play a role in skin health.
It's about working with the body's natural healing mechanisms, not just trying to fight against disease.
I like that. It's a shift from a battlefield mentality to a gardening approach.
Exactly. Instead of attacking the problem, we're nurturing the body's innate ability to heal itself.
And that's what makes this field so exciting.
Yeah.
We're not just talking about new treatments. We're talking about a whole new way of thinking about and approaching skin health.
Absolutely. It encourages people to take an active role in their own health and well-being.
It's empowering, don't you think?
It is. We're not just talking about new treatments. We're talking about a whole new way of thinking about and approaching skin health.
Yeah, it's like we're moving from this idea of constantly being at war with our skin to a place of understanding and supporting its natural rhythms.
I love that analogy. It really highlights the potential of this new paradigm in dermatology. We're starting to see the bigger picture, recognizing that skin health isn't just about topical creams and medications.
Right. It's about the complex interplay of our genes, our environment, and our lifestyle choices.
It's about recognizing that our skin is a reflection of our overall health and well-being.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into cannabinoids and dermatology, what's the one key takeaway you'd like our listener to walk away with?
I think the most important thing to remember is that the endocannabinoid system is a powerful and intricate network that plays a vital role in maintaining skin health.
Right. We've definitely learned that today.
And by understanding how the system works and how we can influence it, we have the potential to unlock new and more effective therapies for a wide range of skin conditions.
It's a message of hope and empowerment for anyone struggling with a skin condition. You know, it's not just about managing symptoms. It's about understanding the root causes and exploring new avenues for healing.
Exactly. And I encourage our listener who specifically requested this deep dive to continue exploring this fascinating field.
There's so much more to learn.
There's so much more to discover. And I believe the future of dermatology is bright with the potential of cannabinoid therapies.
Thank you so much for joining us today and sharing your expertise. It's been a truly enlightening journey into the world of cannabinoids and their remarkable potential to heal and transform the skin.
It's been my pleasure. And remember, the journey of discovery doesn't end here. There's always more to learn,
That's the beauty of science.
right?
The pursuit of knowledge is what drives progress in this field and beyond.
Well said. And to our listener, we encourage you to keep asking questions, keep seeking answers, and keep exploring the fascinating world of science and health. Until next time, happy diving.